So now I've got my pair of legs. I'm going to turn one of them inside out and I'm going to place it on the inside of the other leg. So this will be the right side of the fabric together. Oh, that's slippery.
Slippery little sucker.
Very slippery. Alright, so I'm putting the fabric right sides together. I'm matching up my inner leg seam here. I'm making sure that I push my seam allowance so that I've got the right side of the overlocking facing up on both of those. Matching that seam. Just pop a pin in there.
It's quite hard to see in the black
It is.
on the video, so if you're a bit confused at this point, make sure you ask for help.
Yeah, please ask. I can match those double notches up, which is the back. So I'll stick it in crossways is a good idea. So we want to start on the front. Okay, so you can pop a pin in there if you need to, otherwise just bring the two together. Place the work under the foot. And then we're sewing that, that's again 6mm seam allowance. So try not to cut any fabric off. You may shave a little bit, that's okay.
But it's just really important to make sure that you can see both of the raw edges when you're sewing. Because if you can't, sometimes once you've finished overlocking, you'll have a look, there'll actually be a hole because you won't have caught the inside layer because the overlocking is you know, it's only 6mm wide.
Yeah, so you do need to be quite accurate. You can, when you're making your pattern, you could put a 1cm seam allowance there if you wanted and chop some off, but that's a bit ambiguous with how much you're chopping off, so in production they would always just do a 6mm seam allowance. Okay, so just slow down on the curve so you can make sure you're doing a good job and keeping your edges together.
And with this too, when you start, the point where you start overlocking these two layers together has to be the front waist. So that's the crutch with the shortest, that's the shortest distance, so that when you come down and match them up at the under leg, that both of those seams are going towards the back of the hands.
Oops. The good thing about Lycra is it's fairly forgiving, so I've just accidentally chopped a bit off there.
Libby, can you just point out the double notches just under your hand there?
Yes, the double notches here.
Double
so
notches.
The two backs need to be together. If you don't have your two backs together, it means that you've sewn, instead of sewing a pair, you've sewn two the same. So we've got a pair of legs there, a mirror image of each other. So now we've got our legs made. All we've got to do now is finish the hem and put the waist in the elastic. So we're going to do the waist in the elastic next. And what I've done is I have already stitched the elastic. So this is pre-cut. The elastic's cut at 65 centimetres to go into a 70 centimetre waist on average. So I've lapped the elastic ends over, you can see there, and I've just stitched through the middle and on each end so that I've got a nice flat waistband that has 3 rows of stitching, so it shouldn't come undone. Now what you have to do when you're sewing stretch wear, when you're sewing a circle into a circle in stretch wear, the elastic is always cut smaller than the leg. And this is so that you can stretch the elastic out slightly so that it will then pull the fabric back in. So what we need to do is we need to have some reference points to help us sew it in evenly. So I'm using the middle of the lapped seam that I've made on the elastic as a starting point. I'm going to put a pin in for halfway, and then I'm also going to mark the 1/4 way and the 3/4 point. So just bring your two marks together And that way I'm getting an even spread of distance around the circumference of my elastic. And then we're going to do the same thing with the legging. So if you bring your front and your back seam together, you can get a halfway point, and you can put a little clip in there if you want, or you could put a pin. I've actually clipped that already, so yes, I've already clipped it for you already, so it's ready to go. So now I make a decision about where I want that seam to go in terms of the legging, and usually you place it on one of the sides. So you can see when I put the legging together, the front crutch is shorter than the back crutch. So I'm going to start over on one of my side seams. And I'll put the lapped seam of the elastic there. And just stick a pin in. And then just make your way around, matching that up. Just trim any excess thread away. Make sure that your seam allowance is facing, the stitching is facing the right way.
Which means the nice side of the
yes,
overlocking is facing up.
Nice side facing up. And then we're just going around. So I need to find that other cut notch for the other side, because there's no side seam on this, of course.
Maybe now, if you've pinned those, you can actually lie that down on the table so we can,
sure.
we can
Have
see.
a look at it.
Yes, again with the black it's a bit hard to see all the points,
Yes.
so if you're confused about this, please ask.
Okay, so I've got my front seam here, and I've just pinned it evenly around. So as I stitch this in, oh, I've got that twisted, haven't I?
You've got it.
Oh no, it's right. Oh no, it's not. Yeah, that's right. I've just pinned this in wrong. Oops.
You do have a twist in there too, don't you?
How did that happen?
Make sure you don't twist the elastic as you're going around. It'll be like an
It's
Escher
right
drawing.
there,
You'll never be
yeah.
able to
Yeah.
overlock it.
Must have pinned it to the wrong side. No, I've
See,
lost
so
it.
it's easy to make mistakes.
It is.
So if you're worried at all, get somebody to check your work. Because it's very annoying unpicking,
Yeah,
overlocking and cover
overlocking is,
stitching.
yes.
So yes, check twice, so once.
Okay, ready to go. So I'm going to start at the lapped seam of the elastic. Now you want to sew it with the elastic facing down. And we're going to overlock it on. So you want to make sure that there's a few ways you could go here. You could overlock this on, you could zigzag it on, or you could tack it on the straight sewer. And then,
Yes, if it was me, I would probably straight stitch this on the straight sewer with the elastic on top, so I could see what the elastic was doing before I brought it to the overlocker. And then after I overlock it, I would then give the overlocking a good stretch to snap the original straight sewer thread.
okay, so what we're doing as we're going is we're stretching the elastic out to meet the fabric, but try not to overstretch it and actually stretch the fabric as well. You just want to keep the fabric fairly flat, and you're just stretching the elastic out slightly. It shouldn't be a lot, there's not a lot of difference.
I think we've only, is it right, Libby, we've done a 5 centimetre reduction?
Yes,
So that, and because it's only 5 centimetres, the stretch will only have to be just, over a centimetre per quarter. So it's not a lot at all.
No, it's not a lot at all. So really not stretching it much at all.
And you can see there's a seam there, because Libby's stitching this onto the inside of the fabric, not to the outside. And it's important too when you're going around there not to chop any of the elastic off.
Yeah, so you need to be fairly careful. So you may find it easier to just tack that down on the straight sewer, as Mark said. Okay, so there we've got our finished edge there. All we need to do now is turn this under and cover stitch the edge down on the cover stitch machine. And we're also going to cover stitch the leg of the legging, the hem as well.